Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, so this is my first ever Karen post. It's weird seeing them in the wild after reading all about them. Long post, but really good laugh, with epic instant karma. Anyway, my husband, kids, and I were traveling down a 6-lane road. 3 lanes for each direction come into light, 1 lane for turning one way, another for turning, and the middle for straight. We come up to the red light and crossing traffic starts going. A gentleman gets the green arrow to turn to the left, while a woman on the opposite side starts turning right. They were going to turn into the same lane. He had a right of way since he had the green arrow to turn. Karen decides to turn directly in front of the gentleman, almost hitting him. She stopped her car in front of his, causing all traffic to stop. She gets out screaming at this elderly gentleman about how she had the right of way. He saw her turning and was supposed to stop in the middle of traffic to allow her to turn. She then proceeded to call the cops while stopped in the middle of the road. Mind you, street traffic cannot move. And crossing traffic that wants to turn cannot move also. Police, ambulance, and fire truck come. When Karen number 2 sees this, she proceeds to fall out of the car onto the road. Karen number 1 then proceeds to tell the cops the elderly man hit her car when he blasted through the intersection as she was turning. The ambulance and the fire went to attend to Karen 2. More cops show up and attempt to get traffic moving. They attempt to get Karen to move her car, and the elderly gentleman moves his without any issues. Karen then proceeds to scream and parade the cops and claims her car is damaged so badly she can't move it. Mind you, she did have an older model car that looked very banged up, but the elderly guy never actually hit her. After screaming at the cops, one officer went over to the car, and as he reached inside, I assume to turn the car, Karen runs over to hit him and proceeds to beat him on the back. 8 officers run over to her, drag her off this other cop, all the while she's kicking and screaming. Karen 2 runs over to Karen 1 upon seeing this, and starts swinging her purse at the cops, all while me and my family are laughing our butts off. Was everyone else watching this as well? Anyway, both Karens get thrown to the ground and practically hog ties. All while screaming how they are being mistreated and screaming for, get this, the cop supervisors. A large police truck pulls up and both Karens are placed in the back. A tow truck proceeds to hook up Karen's car, and the cops clear traffic. I don't know what happened to both women, but I assume several charges including assault on a police officer and resisting arrest. The elderly gentleman was let go. We did speak to a cop before Karen 1 started hitting people, and I told him what happened. So I assume the old guy was let go without a ticket or anything, cause well, he didn't do anything wrong. I posted this elsewhere and was told you might like it, so here is a story from about a decade ago, when for nearly a year I was exchanging letters and emails with a Glasgow City Council in Scotland. On one summer Saturday afternoon I was moving to a new flat. There was no parking lines in front of my new building, but loading was allowed. So I left my car there and started to run up and down the stairs with boxes of my belongings. After the last heavy box landed on the floor of my new flat, I really needed a drink. So I started to rummage the boxes, looking for a glass or a cup. One thing led to another, and when at 2 a.m. I finished unpacking, I went to bed for a well-deserved sleep. My building had 2 entry doors, so it was only Tuesday morning when I used the same doors again and bumped into my car parked right in front of them. Damn, I forgot to move my car after I emptied the boxes. Let's hope I don't get a ticket. That's what I thought. There was nothing on my windscreen, no letter came to me over the next couple of weeks. So I just sighed in relief and forgot about all of this. Few months later, a strange letter came. Glasgow City Council informed me that I haven't paid some fine and that if I don't pay it now, I will have to pay 50% extra. I had no idea what it was about. So truthfully I answered by asking, What is it all about? And I can't really recall any unpaid tickets. In the next letter, they have informed me that the ticket is for parking my car on double yellow line. I answered again truthfully that I don't park on double yellow lines. As a former trucker, I'm aware how annoying it is for drivers of bigger vehicles. Not to mention that I would like a fire engine to get to my place in case there is a fire. They answered that they have a proof. I then politely asked them to show me that proof. In the next letter, there was a picture of my car clearly parked on double yellow lines. I instantly recalled the situation described in points 1 and 2. I saw no reason to play fool if I was clearly in the wrong. So since there was a copy of the ticket attached to the picture, I've decided to pay the fine instantly. It was written on the ticket that if I pay within 28 days from receiving the ticket, not from the day of its issue, then I only need to pay £30. I wrote a letter apologizing for my behavior, explaining that it was a genuine oversight, but since I was in the wrong, I am to pay a ticket. So I attached a check for £30. The check was cashed, yet some weeks later I've received yet another letter demanding to pay £60. It claimed that since I failed to pay, and it's now more than 3 months, I have now to pay 50% extra. I answered that I paid within 28 days from the moment I saw the ticket for the first time. I got a 50% discount and that they have already cashed the check, so it's surely some mistake. They answered again that they count this £30 towards a total of 90, so I still have £60 to pay. I answered again that I paid within 28 days from the date the ticket was first delivered to me, so we should be square. I was lectured that if the ticket is put behind the windscreen wiper, it is considered to be delivered properly. I expressed my doubts, pointing out that if it was delivered properly, I will be aware of its existence. I pointed out that a ticket that is placed behind the windscreen of the parked car can be removed by anyone. So, this is hardly safe and reliable method of delivering important documents. Then they started explaining to me in detail. The ticket that was placed behind a windscreen wiper of the car registered to me can be considered as a ticket delivered to me, as removing such ticket is an offense, so I can't expect him to act on the basis of assumption that such ticket will be removed. In my answer, I politely thanked him for this knowledge, admitting that this is new to me. I also informed them that I put a check for £60 into an envelope and I placed it behind the windscreen wiper of the pin lorry. This time it took them longer to respond. Response can be summed up very shortly: what the hell? What pin lorry? I was happy to explain. I quoted their previous letter and pointed out that since this pin lorry was registered to Glasgow City Council, and putting important documents behind the windscreen wiper of a vehicle belonging to the recipient is considered to be a proper way of delivering them, I consider the check to be delivered properly and hope that this will help to bring matter to its end. Next answer arrived much quicker. It's probably due to this rush that was slightly below the standards expected from the official letter sent to a taxpayer by a city councillor. To sum it up, the letter stated that one should not place important documents behind the windscreen wiper of a vehicle, as it can be easily stolen. There were also some doubts raised about my sanity. I was happy to assure them that I feel perfectly well both on the grounds of my body and my psyche. I reminded them that stealing is a crime, and therefore we should not act on the assumption that someone would steal their check from under the windscreen wiper of the bin lorry. I guess they were no longer amused. The next letter contained plenty of giant red letters and informed me that the matter will be now dealt with by sheriff officers and messengers in arms. But if I don't like it, I can always appeal to a parking tribunal in Edinburgh. Of course, I did not like it, so I appealed to a parking tribunal in Edinburgh. The parking tribunal was initially unable to understand the issue. I paid my ticket. I agree that my car was parked on double yellow lines, and I still want to appeal. I then explained to them that I am not willing to contradict the ticket itself, but I'm not happy with the fact that I'm charged extra money even despite the fact that I paid a fine within 28 days from receiving a ticket. They finally agreed to consider the case and set a date during one of their sittings in Glasgow, thus sparing me the trouble of traveling to Edinburgh. About a week before the set date, I've received a letter from Glasgow City Council. It said that my ticket was cancelled. Now that's a different story. I rushed to write a letter in which I pointed out that if the ticket had to be cancelled, then I assumed it was issued wrongly and therefore I paid money I shouldn't have paid. And I demanded my £30 to be returned to me. I never got any more letters regarding this matter. But on one sunny summer Sunday, I logged into my internet banking to discover a payment of £30 from Glasgow City Council. This was related to me by a favorite cousin. Back in the 70s, everyone wanted a cool bicycle. My cousin, like so many others then, saved all his earnings from odd jobs to buy a really nice 10-speed. He rode it everywhere, which was a thing to do at the time. Came out of the house one morning and his bike was gone. There had been a spate of bike thefts in his neighborhood, so he would put it on his mom's back porch nightly, out of view of the street. As they lived on a dead-end street, no one bothered them very much. Coos figured a stolen bike wouldn't garner much attention from the police, so he asked around. It seemed that there was a guy, Kay, who was always coupling together bikes from various old parts, and he was selling them. Essentially a chop shop for bicycles. It should be noted that this guy had a top-of-the-line bike, one that cost several $100s back then. After scooping it out, Coos espied his bike among others, and hatched the plan of revenge. In his mom's backyard, he dug a huge pit. Waiting until it was dark, he went to Kay's house and stole Kay's bike, rode it home and buried it in the pit he dug. The next morning, he phoned the police and told them his bike was missing, and he'd spotted it at Kay's house. The police show up and bust Kay for running a stolen bike ring. The bikes are recovered/returned to their owners, and everyone is relieved to know the full story. Kay does a little jail time, pays some fines and retribution, and discovers his bike is missing. He assumed the police had it, but was told no, they didn't. Kay asks around and no one has seen his bike, so he has to either bum rides, walk or catch the bus to get around. Fast forward 30 years later, Coos is at his mom's, digging her a garden patch in the back corner of the yard when he digs up a sprocket. Puzzled, he digs around and finds a bike chain and other gears. It comes back to him. This is Kay's bike. Sweet revenge. It is slowly rusting after nearly 40 years. I just remembered a tale from when I just got my license. English is not my first language, so please don't be triggered by my grammar. I was 18 and had my license for half a year, and bought my first car. The council decided that public parking space right in front of my house would be given to the neighbor on the other side of the street. This was because of health problems, and that was all okay. And she drove a tiny Kenta. The parking spots on that street were so huge, I could fit, believe me, I did, a Mercedes Sprinter, long wheelbase 7 meters. And then we have my direct neighbor, the original Karen, who liked to call the police for shouting in front of her garden when we were 5 and playing. So the lady parked her Kenta in her designated spot, and I parked my car with my bumper above the line. The lady didn't say anything about it, just greeted me and walked in. Within 20 to 30 minutes, there was someone in front of my door. The police. So being 18, I thought I did something wrong. I opened the door and they asked me who owns this car. I told them me and asked what's wrong. The police officer sighed and said, "Well, you are technically parked correctly, but we got a phone call that it's too close to the other spot." So I came outside to double check and asked, confused, "But it's in the lines. This is how you park, right?" I asked. "Yeah, but the caller said she's unable to get out now." So I ask, she has a reverse, right?" The officer answers, "Yeah, but can you give her like an extra 30 centimeters to keep the peace?" Okay, so I did. Next day I asked the lady if she had called the police, and why she just didn't ask me to move it. She told me I parked great, and she had no difficulty with me standing where I was. Right then and there I realized it wasn't this lady. It was a Karen that called the police on me. So I thank her, go back home, get one of those steel rulers, cut it to 20 centimeters, and use some super glue to glue it to the line of the parking, so if I touch it with my tire, I knew my bumper was above the line and I would not be complying with Karen's demands. After that, the police came on almost weekly basis, and I took him inside and got him some coffee, and they were told the situation and that the caller doesn't even own a car, and it's not even her problem. The police did ask them to stop calling, as I had enough distance to the other spot to get out. Even whenever I came home late, I would see her curtains open and her face is against the window to see how I parked, and without missing a beat, as soon as the engine was off, they would call the police. Even better was when another neighbor would park his small car behind my car and still be in the same spot, then they would call and say there are two vehicles in a spot for one. When that happens, the police comes, asked to park the second vehicle, and I then tell them that I parked both of them for the neighbor after helping him, or something like that. Police then were like, okay, if you both don't care and can drive away, then that's fine, and they just leave. I even loved it when I got a work van for a side job I was doing, and I parked it right there and annoyed the mad Karen. And one day they had a moving van in front of their house. It was over the line of the lady. Finally, it's time for my petty revenge. So I called the police, and they gave Karen, who hired the truck and drove it herself, a big fat ticket for parking inside a handicapped spot. 1 week was enough for them, and I grabbed a chair and watched in silence how they were finally moving away, enjoying every single second. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.